Welcome to the exciting rebirth of Superstar, featuring choose your membership rate as low as just $3 a month. At Superstar, you get expanded, exclusive videoscopes each and every week, unlimited access to special horoscopes, class passes for Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more. All of this in the Superstar space. I look forward to meeting you there. Hello, fabulous friends, fans, and superstars. Welcome to your horoscope for the week of June 6, 2021. I am your astrologer, Nadiya Shah. Thank you for being here. It is a remarkable astrological week, without a doubt. The star of the show, the celestial event that gets all the glitz, the glamour, and the glory is, of course, the solar eclipse taking place right around Thursday for most people out there. Now, this will bring eclipse season to an end for now. But it marks an important time. It's not just that we're having this eclipse and that's it, we're done. But this eclipse is hand in hand, very close in the sky to a retrograde Mercury. Mercury is the ruling planet of this eclipse, considering the eclipse is in the sign of Gemini, and Mercury is Gemini's ruling planet. I was meditating on the energy of Gemini itself, and this is the energy of the twins. It is the energy of siblings. And the energy of Gemini desires to know itself by finding itself in others, by finding the twin in other people and treating others as siblings as they move through the world. Well, with a solar eclipse, we have a lot of power behind this very energy. What happens during a solar eclipse is that the light of the sun is blocked for a moment and then revealed again. And in this way, it is as if something that might have been clear as day to us, but we had not seen it before, or maybe we hadn't fully appreciated it before, becomes obscured, and then finally we get to see it anew. We get to see it differently. Now, this can be a part of ourselves, very likely, because after all, Gemini is also the energy of mind. It is our thinking processes. And I think a lot of us are going to find illumination and reconsideration as to how we may be thinking around a thing or conceptualizing a thing. And how our change in how we conceptualize it can change just about everything for us. In some cases, very quickly. Our willingness to see a thing differently can transform that very thing. Consciousness affects reality. It affects matter. Consciousness changes matter. I know that I've had the experience, and I've spoken about this before, I'm sure you've had the experience as well, where you meet someone and they look to you one way and then they start talking and their appearance changes right in front of your face. That is their consciousness as they are sharing it, as they are revealing it, changing their appearance. Now, that may be our own consciousness changing our perception of them, which changes their appearance, but it can often also be that people themselves, based on whether it's the thoughts, whether it's the ideas that they are holding, have a way of changing what it is that is being perceived about them. And in some cases, very powerful ways. This retrograde Mercury conjunct this solar eclipse is especially notable because as much as a solar eclipse is about a brand new beginning, that can be very karmic, that can feel like it comes out of nowhere in some cases, to help us to start a fresh path that is ultimately more in alignment with a higher, more loving vision for our life. Because Mercury is retrograde, chances are what is beginning now, or this new opportunity, has some roots in what has been before, has something familiar about it. Now, I'm going to invite you to think back, okay? We're going to go back a little bit here. April 6th, that was when Mars was over this eclipse point. And it was way back when I said, pay attention to what is happening in your life right now. Because in some way, whatever is transpiring, you will return to it. It's going to provide a foreshadowing, a glimpse into what this eclipse is going to mean for you. And so if you think back to what was happening in your life right around that time, it doesn't have to be an exact date, it doesn't have to be right that date, but that general time frame, that will tell you something about what this eclipse could mean. Now I'm going to give you another date, and that is May 18th, not that long ago. That was when Mercury was over the eclipse point, now retrograde over the eclipse point. And so what is taking place with this eclipse is a fresh perspective. Yes, it is a brand new beginning, but it has its roots in these particular dates. And it is going to be now that the energy is, yes, in some way a continuation or a further illumination and advancement. But because of that Neptune square playing out, I think that there's also going to be confusion. There's going to be uncertainty, ambivalence, mixed messages, mixed feelings as well. That really is okay. We're allowed to have mixed feelings at times. It isn't going to be until July 1st. That is going to be the third and final movement of Mercury over the eclipse point that clarity will come to what transpires now. And so, yes, we have an eclipse, brand new beginnings, fresh new starts, especially those rooted in new ideas, new understandings of how consciousness affects matter, of how it is that ultimately we are all brethren. We are all siblings to each other. So yes, this is Gemini energy, and part of the big lesson here is around how we're communicating and sharing, especially spontaneously, how it is that we are siblings to each other, no matter where it is we go, and how it is that we may find a reflection of ourselves in all kinds of places and spaces and people. Now, I am going to actually quote a Drake song. And I actually quoted this earlier today when I was teaching at Synchronicity University to my students, and I think they loved it. I think they did. And this song is Nice for What? And there's a lyric in it that I thought was so powerful and reminded me of this solar eclipse. And the lyric goes something like, "That's the real one in your reflection, without a follow, without a mention." And to me, what this lyric represents is this idea that when we are with ourselves or with each other, we are able to see something in us that goes beyond just the performance of self that we find on social media. Now, social media is a wonderful thing. I love social media. If it wasn't for social media, I wouldn't have the platforms that I have to be able to share what it is that I feel that I'm meant to share in this lifetime. And I know that there are hundreds of thousands, actually millions of people who probably feel exactly the same way, if not billions of people who feel exactly the same way. So social media is a very powerful thing that we as humanity have manifested. It is our consciousness that shows up in our lived experience in our reality. I think it's incredible that we've manifested the internet. It speaks to how we understand ourselves as connected, as if by a web, to each other. And so now we've manifested this thing, which is the internet, that is at once not real, but also nothing is ever truly deleted. Everything is always there. So it is beyond permanent while it is also virtual. And so we think about social media, this idea of how we celebrate and perpetuate those connections that we have to each other, how we reach out to each other, how it is that we may not only just share our ideas, but exchange ideas that much more easily, stay in touch with each other, be aware of our connections to each other in a much more direct and individual sense. And it is ultimately social media that has this blessing, this gift where you can put something there and it can reach a whole lot of people. You yourself are worthy of shining and being seen. That is going to be further affirmed by something else that's happening that I will talk about in just a moment. But that alone, that you are worthy of shining and being seen, that something about your ideas and what you share could reach so many people, I think that is part of what it is that is celebrated through social media as well. So that can be very powerful. At the same time, though, as we know, there can be mixed feelings about what we may present. There can be a sense of us presenting only one side of us, or maybe even some people feeling like what it is that they're sharing isn't real. That's where we need to be a little bit careful. Neptune is square this eclipse, which says that I think a lot of people are going to be asking themselves how much of what they share, whether spontaneously, whether on social media, how much of their exchanges are rooted in something authentic, something real, something true. Eclipses reveal the truth, and yet we've got a retrograde Mercury hand in hand with the eclipse. If it was just a direct Mercury, I would say this is energy of epiphany and clarity and insight and understanding. But because Mercury is retrograde, it does suggest that part of what we may come to understand has to do with what is happening within us, has to do with a sense of reflection and reconsideration as to not only whom it is that we are, but what we are sharing and how we feel about it. Do we feel that it is a mask? Do we feel that we are not being honest? Or is it that we can accept that this is one expression of our honesty, but that we, you, like everyone else, like myself, is a complex and varied person and a varied human being? And as such, are going to have all kinds of parts of us, and some we feel comfortable sharing in certain environments like social media, and some perhaps not so much. We are going to have to be careful, though, of false information spreading very quickly, perhaps coming back around in some way. Information that might have been there in the ether, now coming back around and being spread much more quickly, that is ultimately not true. So we have to be diligent with that. We have to be mindful of that in terms of what it is that we are not only believing, but then what is it that we're sharing? What is it that we're perpetuating? And these ideas that are not true can speak to world events, of course, like opinions about what's happening, but they can also be ideas about ourselves, the things that we perpetuate of what we believe to be true about us. And sometimes we may perpetuate ideas or concepts about ourselves that are not rooted in love and wisdom, that are rooted instead in our own fears, our own insecurities, or the ways in which we may direct our energies incorrectly, misrepresent ourselves because we're afraid of what may actually be there within us, the truth of who we are. Now, I spoke just a few moments ago about this idea of shining and being seen. Well, Mars moves into the sign of Leo under the light of this solar eclipse. On Friday is when Mars will move into the sign of Leo. And Leo is the energy of knowing that you are worthy of shining and being seen. That is the higher spiritual understanding of this sign. And so we are likely going to find ourselves that much more motivated to tap into that part of ourselves, to tap into our heart, to ask ourselves what it is that our heart has to share, genuinely desires to share. What is it that is within our heart that desires to be known more and desires recognition, desires respect? We're going to be that much more brave and bold in that very expression. And we should see this culturally as well in the world stage. We should see particularly dramatic celebrity statements coming up in the weeks ahead. This transit will last about a month and a half. And while it is going on, we are that much more likely to celebrate the celebrities and celebrate those that we see as fabulous, care about owning our own fabulousness and celebrating that. And whatever it is that that means to you, you are going to be invited to own it and to trust it and to go with it with courage and bravery as you go out there sharing this more authentic version of you. I think that the solar eclipse will give us the ideas, but also could stir our own fears, our own insecurities. But it does that so that we can face them, so that we can heal them, so that we can release them, and ultimately come back to heart, come back to the power of that Mars moving into the sign of Leo, that very pure energy of what is it that you desire to shine for yourself and for the world and in the world. And owning that and celebrating that is part of the gift of this time. Now, what we also are going to have this week, well, we are going to have Ceres activating next week's Saturn Uranus square. Yes, here we are, Saturn Uranus square once again. This is an ongoing dance that is defining much of 2021 for a lot of us out there. This is the ancient ruler of Aquarius in the sign of Aquarius, speaking in a conversation of tension with the modern ruler of the sign of Aquarius, which is Uranus. in the sign of Taurus. So these two planets are connecting with each other throughout the year. There's this sense of integrating the old and the new, the sense of wanting to change structures in a way that become more equal in one sense, but also more evolved, more detached, more scientific, more empirical. Now, these particular words that I'm using can evoke strong emotion, and I'm using them without any kind of attachment to whether they are good or whether they are bad. Just the characteristics of the energy of the sign of Aquarius itself. And the energy of Aquarius itself is one that is at times hyper rational, hyper scientific, but also hyper individualistic. It is an energy of idiosyncrasies, an energy of the bohemian and yet the genius, of the mad scientist, but also the astrologer, right? Astrology is often, well, sometimes, depends how you approach your astrology, but often is associated with the energy of Aquarius. So we have these very powerful energies playing out here. And I feel this week with Ceres bringing an activation to this square, which is going to perfect next week, it says something about how we have an innate need, like a deep and profound desire to understand who we are as individuals and understand our place within the collective. We have this need, a nourishment that happens when we honor something truly authentic within ourselves. There is something very deep within that feels nourished, body, mind, and soul, when it is that we own our unique creative voice and we share it, but we also know that as we share, everybody benefits because everybody gets to share. There's this saying that we are all special, and because we are all special, no one is special. And that pretty much perfectly summarizes the energy of Aquarius, and it pretty much perfectly summarizes this particular energy of Saturn and Uranus square. Well, you add Ceres to the mix, and it makes this that much more an emotional journey. Ceres represents not only what we need to be nourished, but it also speaks to what we long for, a deep and profound longing that we may have. And so where is it that we long for independence, but also interconnection? And this takes me back to the solar eclipse. The solar eclipse taking place in the sign of Gemini. We may surprise ourselves by the desire to see ourselves in others, the desire we have to know ourselves as brethren, to have those spontaneous interactions and connections with other people, to feel that sense of exchange that happens on a level of mind and ideas, but actually has deep symbolic significance. The significance is that we are not alone as we move through the world, because we are all brethren, because we can communicate with each other, because we can share with each other. It is the energy of Aquarius that speaks to the collective experience, but the energy of Gemini, it is one that becomes a lot more personal, a lot more immediate, and a lot more about what is being exchanged in a given moment, without necessarily thought of the higher implications that can sometimes consume Aquarian energy. And so where is it now that we long for this? We long for this sense of connection with each other. I think all of that is going to come right to the surface for a lot of us out there. As more and more places are starting to open up, I think that where it is that we have had to be separate, there is going to be this very strong yearning, this sense of being propelled towards each other as the world starts to open up more and more. We are feeling that much more that we cannot wait for those connections to start happening again. And they will bring with them their own challenges, yes, but their own motivations, their own joys, their own fulfillment. And the emotional fulfillment of Ceres, when longing is fulfilled, is what our interactions and connections with each other are going to serve well. At the very end of the week, Venus will speak with Uranus in a conversation of harmony. I love this energy. This is fortunate. It is fun, it is light, it is easy. Now, Venus is in the sign of Cancer, which has to do with family, feeling connected to family, but it also has to do with feeling at home, regardless of where that is, in your country, in your own body, in your physical dwelling space. And when we have this Uranian energy, it can feel as if very quickly we feel more at home in an instant with ourselves and with each other. This is also energy that is very beautiful, where very quickly we may find ourselves celebrating very unique expressions of beauty. They can be very well received now. All else being equal, I gotta say, because I know sometimes we have some tough Venusian energy playing out, and I say to you, hey, slow down on celebrating or at least experimenting with Venusian matters like your unique beauty. Have fun. You know, like I like to say, it's only hair. I say that from time to time over the years because I believe it. I tell you, I believe it. But there are energies that support playing and experimenting with your unique beauty and figuring out what your unique beauty expression is going to be at this moment in your life. It's part of the fun of being a human being, in my humble experience. Well, where it is that you are ready to partake in that joy, and this energy of Uranus and Venus can help you to do just that. Of course, this is also lovely energy for romantic surprises. You do want to be a little bit careful with this. I do have to say this energy happens at the very end of this week or the very beginning of next week, depending on where you are on the planet. What you want to be mindful of, though, is that at the very beginning of next week, we've got Venus connecting with Saturn in a quincunx type of conversation, which tends to move quickly, can be surprising and have a surprising element to it, but is also one that asks us to hold back a little bit, to be conservative or restrained in some way. So we do have to be mindful of that. But for all that, I do think that Uranus and Venus, well, this is going to invite us to have fun. And in some cases, very spontaneous moments to have fun, where it is that we are hoping for or planning romantic surprises or just surprises that involve joy and spreading joy. This energy is going to be very helpful in that regard as well. What I love about this week for us, well, look, it's gotta be the eclipse, that very powerful solar eclipse that is set to take place in the sign of Gemini. A lot of people have been looking forward to this. And I will say that we are not going to see another eclipse in the sign of Gemini until much later this decade. And so in at least one area of life, you are ready to begin again. And yet your new beginning is going to be rooted in something else, something before, whether that's some idea that came up, some inspiration, some foreshadowing way back in early April, or whether that is messages that you started to receive way back in the middle of May. It is going to be now that in some way, along with the new, comes a return as well. And even with the uncertainty, even with an energy of confusion, just know clarity will come in perfect time. And that perfect time is right around the corner. July 1st is when Mercury will move over the eclipse point for the third and final time. Of course, I will be here to talk about it every step of the way. But that ultimately will bring that furtherance and that affirmation of clarity that we truly are seeking. But we are in the journey. The process happens right now. And this eclipse will bring illumination to mind and soul. Well, thank you so much for watching. What do you love about this week? Let me know in the comments below. I love reading you guys. And to prove it to you, here are some of my most recent favorite comments. Thank you to everybody who likes, who comments, who subscribes, who shares, who thumbs up. All of it. It just means so much. Thank you. And of course, if you want to know how all this wonderful stuff this week speaks to you in your sign, log on to NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Now, for just $3 a month, with Choose Your Membership Rate, you can get expanded exclusive video scopes for each and every sign, each and every week. Again, that's just $3 a month, which choose your membership rate. Higher tiers get you things like access to all the special horoscopes that I put out, including the Jupiter and Pisces special horoscopes that are out now, and also the Saturn special horoscopes, the 2021 special horoscopes. That's where I talk about what this Saturn Uranus square that's going to perfect next week, but is being activated this week, speaks to you and your sign. Well, all of that is up in the Superstar space as well. And higher tiers get you class passes to Synchronicity University, consultations with me, and so much more at NadiyaShahSuperstars.com. Link is in the description below. I look forward to meeting you there. YouTube for astrologers with the renowned Kepler College is back. This is the second year I'm going to be teaching this. Now, space is extremely limited, and I know that previous students have loved the experience of going through this program. It is a 5-week program, and you get mentorship from me one-on-one, and also this very powerful small group dynamic that does take place. It's not just limited to astrologers. It really is anybody who is spiritually oriented, wants to have a business that reflects their spiritual expression, their higher calling for this lifetime. Now, this is different from anything else that I share, like at Synchronicity University, because it is more, on the one hand, yes, we look at the more personal side and understanding more about yourself and what you have to share, but there's a lot of really practical stuff. Most of it is practically oriented, understanding how to take what it is that you have to share and make it into something that is self-sufficient, that allows you to be prosperous, however it is that you define that, and however it is that you want to be that. And so we look at everything from how to make videos, how to make money, and so much more. So this is me showing a different side of myself, because really I'm not so motivated by that. I tell you, and I've shared before, I've been a full-time astrologer for 15 years. I'm coming up to 15 years September 1st as a full-time astrologer. The first 7 years of my business, I lived below the poverty line in Canada. And I remember how many years I did exactly what I'm doing right now, but for free or for very, very little money. And I have a lot of stories to tell around that too. But I experimented and I learned and how to turn this into something that can be more self-sufficient, that allows me to then provide for myself, for my family, for my parents in particular, which is very, very important to me. All of that really is possible because of you. But I also know that there are certain business things that you can do to make sure that you are at least moving in that direction to the best of your ability. So if you go onto the Kepler College website, you are going to find a whole lot of information about this particular program, what exactly is involved. And as I said, space is extremely limited. I think it's limited to only 30 students. It is expected to sell out. Last year, we did end up selling out, and there is a waiting list. So I know already some waiting list people have been contacted. So we are operating at very limited spaces here. But if you are so called to this experience, or maybe last year you wanted to do it, but then it didn't come together, then this retrograde can work really well to your advantage to allow you that other chance. And maybe this eclipse as well can give you that sense of how it is that you can tap into social media and so much more to align with what it is that you uniquely have to share in this lifetime. The classes start July 15, so that is right around the corner. So you've got a few weeks there if you want to enroll or investigate it or see if it feels right to you. Link is in the description below with the very prestigious, and I'm so honored to be asked to be back teaching with them at keplercollege.org. Tarot Summer School is underway. This is so exciting. I love being a part of Tarot Summer School. 12 of the most renowned tarot teachers in the world are participating in this very unique program over the course of the summer, and it is a very thorough program at that. My class is going to be the first time I'm teaching about astrological aspects for amazing tarot readings. And so we are going to be looking at how it is that you can align the readings that you do And this could be tarot readings, it could be astrology readings as well. But what aspects do you want to look for? So we actually go through the signs of the moon and how that can speak to the type of reading that you might do. We go through the planets as well, to how those planets may be aspecting the moon and how that can speak to what kind of readings might come forward. So it becomes about setting an intention, but also tapping into the power of the sky to have the kind of reading experience for yourself and for your querent that you want. And there's so many incredible classes and different aspects and layers of tarot that are playing out here. So I would invite you to go to the link in the description below to check out Tarot Summer School, whether it is that you want to see my class or whether it is that you want to see the whole program. All of that is on offer at Tarot Summer School for this year. Link is in the description below. Synchronicity University Summer School is underway. We just had our first class earlier today. And as I said, I was quoting Drake. You get to see this whole other side of me. If that matters to you, you get to learn incredible astrology, yes. But you get lots of my personal stories as well, stuff that I just would never share on YouTube. I tell you, my students get to hear stories about my life and applying it, but also we get to look at lots and lots of celebrity examples to really flesh out the lessons. So earlier today, we had the 7th house, planets in the 7th house, and lots of individual signups for that as well. Thank you to everybody, whether you're registering for the whole summer school program or whether it is that you prefer to take one class at a time. Thank you for seeing me and what I teach as part of your sacred journey. This coming week, we are going to have the 7th house ruler. So ruling planets of the 7th house, the ruler of the descendant. Where is that placed in the chart? What does that say about how you partner with people, how you bring in other areas of life to understand partnerships, whether those are business partnerships or romantic partnerships, and the type of people you may attract and where you may attract them. So I think this is going to be a very fun class, but also my hope is very rewarding in helping us to understand, again, that reflection. We talked about that. I told you, I quoted Drake in the class earlier today, and I was saying this idea of the reflection is so much what the descendant is about. And so what is it that you see that is real? When you look in that reflection, and what does that actually mean? Well, it is going to be the 7th house that's going to illuminate some of that, and the ruler of the 7th house in particular, how you make sense of that reflection, what other areas of life you draw on to make sense of it, and so much more. So check that out at synchronicityuniversity.com. Links are in the description below, along with a lot of other incredible classes that are coming up this summer as well that I hope you absolutely love at synchronicityuniversity.com. And finally, you can get my take on your unique birth chart by checking out my partnership with Cosmogram. At Cosmogram, you go onto their website using the link in the description below, you enter in your birth data, and within hours, you will be sent a PDF copy of your birth chart along with my interpretation of the different planetary placements and planetary aspects that are there in your chart. I thank you so much to everybody who's purchased this, who's loved it, the amazing feedback that these reports have gotten. It really was a labor of love putting this together, but it is my interpretation of the different aspects playing out in your birth chart. If you go onto the Cosmogram website, you will actually be able to see a sample there, and that'll show you exactly what it is that you are going to get, whether for yourself or for someone else. So again, the link is in the description below, and I thank you so much for your trust. And again, I hope you absolutely love it. And thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you again for watching. I'm really hoping that we are able to embrace this very powerful eclipse energy to help us each in our own individual journeys to understand what it is that we uniquely have to share. I think the sky is supporting that in powerful ways with all these different celestial aspects that are taking place. The eclipse, of course, is going to be felt so very strongly by so many of us. And my hope also is that we use our minds and our consciousness in a way that serves us well as part of our unique journey towards greater love and greater wisdom. And let that unite us. Let that be the thing that reminds us that we truly are siblings to each other. Thank you again for watching. I'm truly so grateful for it. And it'll be a great week. Enjoy.